Thank you for watching. Today we'll talk about the Michigan Department of Transportation Clown Patrol at the Canton-Plymouth MDOT 1D2 General Aviation Airstrip, Frat House. This is the first in a series of documentaries that reveal MDOT's ongoing campaign of professional negligence, dereliction of duty, overreach, abuse of power, malfeasance, unethical, immoral, willful neglect, and just plain reprehensible, abhorrent, creepy behavior, clearly on behalf of special interest and industry lobbyist cronies. This documentary was created for educational purposes. I do not claim any rights to the material used. The overall goal is to close the Michigan Department of Transportation-owned Canton-Plymouth MDOT 1D2 airstrip, to stop the negative community outcomes from negative aviation impacts, and protect vulnerable populations including pregnant moms, babies, school children, and elderly. We'll talk about several brief sections outlined here to discuss negative community outcomes from negative aviation impacts. Note, this documentary is not just about eliminating leaded avgas, but eliminating all negative community outcomes from negative aviation impacts affecting communities, their densely populated neighborhoods, homes, and schools. The conclusion and summary highlights MDOT's 5 decades, a full 50 years of deception, bullying, and outright lies that continue. Be sure to check out the YouTube description for this video for links to more detailed information and references. We'll talk about several brief sections outlined in this part 2 of 2 to discuss negative community outcomes from negative aviation impacts. In the previous part 1 of 2, we reviewed sections 1 through 8 to introduce topics that set the overall context and why eliminating negative aviation impacts is important to protect communities' neighborhoods, homes, and schools. In this part 2 of 2, we present section 9 and 10, and then conclude and summarize MDOT's 5 decades, a full 50 years of deception, bullying, and outright lies that continue. Note, this documentary is not just about eliminating leaded avgas, but eliminating all negative community outcomes from negative aviation impacts affecting communities, their densely populated neighborhoods, homes, and schools. Be sure to check out the YouTube description for this video for links to more detailed information and references. The Michigan Department of Transportation is responsible for the largest single waste of taxpayer dollars in Michigan history. So how can anyone say that? Let's look at current status and some basic facts to see how. MDOT has 50 years of well-documented, repeatable patterns of behavior, including total fiscal irresponsibility, bullying, deception, and outright lies. MDOT has become a retirement home for burrowed-in special interest and industry lobbyist cronies. MDOT has allocated millions upon millions of wasted tax dollars and efforts strewn across the entire state of Michigan. MDOT has no demonstrable, reliable, proven facts, projections, or statistics other than MDOT special interest and industry lobbyist hearsay, including zero business case, zero demand, zero need, zero accountability, zero transparency, and zero ROI anywhere in Michigan. A 2021 National Aeronautics and Space Administration study done by the Systems Analysis and Concepts Directorate at the Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia, found that while America is home to more than 5,000 airports, only 30 or 0.6% of all U.S. airports serve more than 70% of all travelers. Additionally, the study shows the majority of all U.S. airports are underutilized due to air transportation services trending towards putting more people into larger aircraft on well-traveled routes. There are 2, really surprising, major facts revealed by the NASA study that stand out. 1. Only 17 of about 500 U.S. airports served by commercial flights are projected to be capacity-constrained by 2030. Guess what? Ann Arbor Airport is not on the list of capacity-constrained airports. Ann Arbor isn't even considered a small hub airport or show up in the non-hub airport statistics in any meaningful way, at least to Michigan taxpayers, that is. There are currently 9 U.S. airports that are considered capacity-constrained and projected to increase to 11 by 2030, with an additional 6 considered to be at risk of reaching constraints in this time period. Nearly all of the major hub airports are on the capacity-constrained list, meaning that airports will be restricted in how many new flights, if any at all, can be added. This includes Detroit Metro Wayne County Airport, DTW, that received $10,378,199 in 2023 to reconstruct a taxiway. Willow Run Airport, YIP, received $12,780,187 for construction of a new taxiway in 2023 as well. The second point that is really worth noting, a total of $3.2 billion wasted taxpayer money in FAA annual grant funding/handouts, aka FAA welfare, that go to superfluous, underutilized general aviation airports. Many GA airports receiving FAA welfare are privately owned, for-profit entities exploiting phony FAA ROI calculations, including many elite airparks. It should be abundantly clear that 334 million, we the people of the U.S., are only concerned with the 30 mega airports, or only about 0.6% of all U.S. airports. Just to be conservative, quadruple that number to 120. Nobody is convinced that over 5,000-120 or 4,880 airports are absolutely required anymore. There are no statistics or projections that show that. Or to be really ultra-conservative, start with one airport per U.S. county, or 3,244 airports. Take the exaggerated over 5,000 U.S. airports, subtract 3,244, this equals 1,756 airports. Almost 1,800 airports that have absolutely nothing to do with the 334 million, we the people. There are no statistics or projections that show that almost 1,800 underutilized useless airports are absolutely required for the U.S. to continue to operate, or it will shut down without them. There are zero projections, zero statistics, zero business cases, zero demand, zero need, zero accountability, zero transparency, and zero ROI for 334 million, we the people. It should be noted that strategic airports support population centers that require air transport of people or goods and services. That is, mass transportation of people and mass transportation of goods and services. Certainly not random personal, hobby, sport, recreational, social entertainment venues and activities. General aviation popularity, access, availability, or funding are not taxpayer problems and never have been. Taxpayers have been duped and scammed way too long by special interest and industry lobbyist agendas for 150,000 general aviation 50-plus-year-old flying junk piles, collector's items and museum pieces used well beyond flight hours and years envisioned when the aircraft were designed. Taxpayers have been repeatedly duped with phony FAA welfare based on the bloated, out-of-touch, decades out of date, misleading, almost fraudulent National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems, NPIS/Airport Improvement Plan, AIP, and the laughable, ridiculous Associated Airports Capital Improvement Plan, ACIP. It should also be abundantly clear that the ancient FAA, NPIAS, AIP, and ACIP, FAA handouts and welfare, have nothing to do with the future of anything for 99.9% of the U.S. population, or over 334 million, we the people, to warrant $3.2 billion in taxpayer-funded handouts. The National Academy's Transportation Research Board sponsored Airport Cooperative Research Programs, or ACRP, article titled Airport Generated Revenue or Operating Revenue states, quote, "It is not uncommon for general aviation airports to operate at a loss. Airports are capital-intensive enterprises, and the amount of money needed to meet FAA safety and operational requirements generally far outweighs the ability of GA airports to generate revenue." Unquote. And as such, capital-intensive airports support population centers that require mass transportation of people or goods and services, and also generate required revenue to operate without FAA welfare. The ancient FAA, NPIAS, AIP, ACIP, coupled with Airport Cooperative Research Program, FAA handouts and welfare, is a special interest and industry lobbyist dream come true that supports underutilized airports that only serve an elite, select few. Another noteworthy point is that general aviation numbers keep shrinking into further irrelevance, from 20,000 airports to 13,000 to 5,000. Now it appears not even 3,244 airports are required for mass transportation of people, goods, and services across the entire U.S. Again, general aviation popularity, access, availability, or funding are not taxpayer problems and never have been. The U.S. Constitution does not provide for the inalienable right to fly. However, the U.S. Constitution does provide and protect against involuntary poisoning, aka violating individual bodily integrity. Freedom to fly does not include freedom to poison. Just as taxpayers are under no obligation to provide golf courses as an inalienable right to golf, taxpayers are under no obligation to provide personal hobby, sport, recreational, social, entertainment, general aviation venues as an inalienable right to fly. The majority of these so-called airports have never been required or needed and should not be funded in any way, shape, or form. Certainly, no more funding or support than hunting, fishing, boating, golf, bowling, national parks, state, county, local parks, campgrounds, boat launches, or other personal hobby, sport, recreational, social, entertainment venues or pursuits receive. The We the People venues are enjoyed by millions and millions of U.S. citizens, not just a handful of elite select individuals or about 150,000 50-plus-year-old flying junk piles, collector's items, and museum pieces. The bloated, redundant FAA welfare and handouts are completely out of control, coupled with phony FAA welfare requirements and almost fraudulent ROI calculations. Freedom to fly equals freedom to pay for it yourself. Go build your own airstrip or elite airpark if you want. Just don't expect taxpayers to blindly pay and then ask for FAA welfare, handouts, special considerations, and exceptions. This is why GA airports are closing as fast as communities can close them due to the whole litany of negative aviation impacts and zero ROI, except for a handful of people. Nobody wants toxic noise pollution, toxic chemicals, and toxic people, or any of the other negative aviation impacts and negative community outcomes that are packaged together. Note: the National Academies, mentioned earlier, or for short, the Academies, refers collectively to the United States National Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Engineering, and National Academy of Medicine. The now defunct, embarrassing, actually pathetic, Michigan Aviation System Plan, MASP, has been replaced and is simply referred to as the MDOT Office of Aeronautics 2023 Michigan Airport Directory, and is personally signed off by the Clown Aero Buffoon, or CAB, a new state of Michigan sea-level position. The MDOT directory refers to 215 licensed public-use landing sites and airports. 86 sites are private-owned for-profit enterprises, 129 sites are public-owned. Only 15 to 18 of the public-owned sites support scheduled air carrier service. Michigan has one large hub-level airport, Detroit Metro Airport DTW, followed by Grand Rapids GRRA small hub, accompanied by 13 much smaller and other non-hub airports, or sites, as MDOT refers to them. The only large hub DTW and small hub GRR account for almost all significant air carrier traffic in Michigan. Most other statistics are MDOT smoke and mirrors hype. That is, lies, damned lies, and MDOT statistics. While Michigan has over 10 million residents, most care about the 15 to 18 airports that have regularly scheduled commercial flights. That leaves around 200 airports that have absolutely nothing to do with 10 million Michigan residents. These are MDOT's crown jewels, or so-called, quote, significant assets and highly important to Michigan's economy, unquote. 10 million Michigan residents are concerned with commercial mass transportation or mass handling of raw materials and goods. Not random personal hobby, sport, recreational, social, entertainment, general aviation venues for an elite select few, including private airparks. Again, general aviation popularity, access, availability, or funding are not Michigan taxpayer problems and never have been. Michigan taxpayers have been duped and scammed way too long by Michigan's special interest and industry lobbyist agendas to support the MDOT exaggerated 5,000 Michigan general aviation millionaires and 50-plus-year-old flying junk piles, collector's items, and museum pieces. Most GA aircraft, aka flying junk piles, are used well beyond flight hours and years envisioned when the aircraft were designed, and many of these clowns own multiple aircraft. Almost 200 underutilized, unneeded, unwanted hobby, sport, recreational, social, entertainment, general aviation venues have been forced and bullied on Michigan taxpayers by burrowed-in special interest and industry lobbyists within MDOT. These 200 so-called MDOT landing sites have absolutely nothing to do with 10 million Michigan residents. Except we the people, who pay the price for this ridiculous waste of taxpayer money. Michigan taxpayers should never fund more than 83 airports, one per county, total in the entire state of Michigan. More lies, damned lies, and MDOT statistics. It should be abundantly clear MDOT buffoons are responsible for the largest waste of taxpayer money in Michigan history. The phony pie-in-the-sky Ann Arbor Airport expansion project is meant to, quote, cut down on situations where planes are forced to cut passengers or fuel in order to meet weight requirements that depend on air temperature and other factors, unquote. It's interesting to note, there are no affected commercial air carriers or even regional carriers that have actually been affected here, because there are none here. Officials even admit it's possible 2019 data was used, or what most would call cherry-picked, to avoid trend interruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The latest, so-called Ann Arbor Airport study was apparently produced by MDOT close friend, ally, and number one crony firm of choice. They are a well-known professional FAA, NPIAS, AIPA, CIPA, CRP mercenary that craft finely honed request for proposals, RFPs. Consisting of thousands of pages of boilerplate templates and technical dribble reused over and over again meant to literally choke or drown out any opposition. This is a tried-and-true technique that professional FAA mercenaries have in their FAA toolbox perfected over decades. The latest study and phony misleading statements are just more regurgitated technical mumbo-jumbo that has worked in the past for yet another unholy alliance of MDOT buffoons, local FAA clowns, plus lackey airport personnel and MDOT. Yes, people and bootlickers. The entire clown parade, colluding together to provide disinformation and technical gibberish meant to mislead, confuse, and overwhelm the public and or anyone that opposes their efforts anywhere. There are well-documented, publicly available MDOT and FAA historical references that demonstrate concerted collusion, bullying, misinformation, and lies. Does anyone want to place bets on which cronies own aircraft here or which cronies will benefit from this so-called expansion project? The time has come to hold MDOT accountable and stop the coordinated, blatant deception, misinformation, and lies. Surely, somebody somewhere in Michigan can put a stop to this complete MDOT juggernaut clown parade. The state of Michigan is littered with MDOT failed, wasted taxpayer-funded debacles. Besides Canton-Plymouth Meta Tall 1D2 Airport in Canton Township, Wayne County, which residents have vehemently tried to shut down since the 70s, and previously discussed Lyndon Price's elite Airpark 9G2 in Lyndon/Fenton Township, Genesee County. There's also MDOT rescued Houghton Lake State Airport 5Y2 in Roscommon Township, Roscommon County, and rescued Romeo State Airport east of Romeo in Macomb County. No local or county authorities want to take ownership of any of these complete and utter failures from the MDOT Clown Patrol. In 2023 alone, well over $22 million has been spent within a 15-mile radius of the Ann Arbor Airport, with $10 million at DTW and $12 million at Willow Run. Now MDOT wants to spend another $10 million just a couple miles away? What's wrong with this picture? The Ann Arbor Airport is only 10 miles from Willow Run YIP and 15 miles from DTW. We're talking about only a couple minutes by car between any of these MDOT landing sites. What the hell is going on here? Does the Wayne-Washtenaw County area really need a fabricated Tri-City mega airport complex? Consisting of Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti and DTW airports? There are no projections, statistics, or business cases that even come close to justifying this ridiculous waste of taxpayer time and money. This is completely counter to NASA studies, projections, and actual mass air transport statistics anywhere in Michigan. Now the Four Stooges want to add to their combined total fiscal irresponsibility, bullying, deception, and outright lies with zero business cases, zero demand, zero need, zero accountability, zero transparency, and zero ROI for 10 million Michigan residents. 2020. Aviation Pros reports Park Township, Michigan residents voted a resounding no for any millage or taxpayer support for Park Township Community Airport, HLM, one of Michigan's oldest airports. Taxpayers' money would have funded future operations and renovations to the airport's aging runway. Unlike Canton-Plymouth Meta Tall 1D2, where MDOT completely renovated the entire 1D2 aging runway before taxpayers or lawmakers could even notice. Every 1D2 paved surface, including the parking lots, were repaved with dedicated paving crews in record time. This happened literally over a few days, very rare for a small airstrip, while local roads crumbled into gaping potholes large enough to swallow small cars. Most Michigan residents have heard the rallying cry, "Fix the damn roads." However, nobody in Michigan, especially residents of Canton Township, Michigan area, ever heard the priority call to fix the damn runway. Failure of the millage triggered the removal of the Park Township, Michigan's airport's unneeded, unwanted runway, saving taxpayer money. It's that simple. 2023. Park Township, Michigan residents cheered to finally close Park Township Community Airport, HLM, one of Michigan's oldest. "It's an exciting day for Park Township," said the Park Township supervisor. "The pickleball complex is going to be the first big step toward developing the park." Just like MDOT-owned Canton-Plymouth Meta Tall 1D2, only a handful of aircraft were based at the airport, not including the pathetic Civil Air Patrol Squadron Mi-135 now based elsewhere. MDOT-owned Canton-Plymouth Meta Tall 1D2 has the honor to host the sniveling hostile Livonia Thunderbolt Composite Civil Air Patrol Squadron Mi-183 flying aircraft N305CP, true community pariah. Parents, don't be fooled and let your kids around these Civil Air Patrol fools. Everyone knows they're not the role models they think they are in their own minds. Many Civil Air Patrol squadrons are a worthy objective that is a failure in implementation led by clowns with limited qualifications and self-serving integrity with rampant widespread problems of systemic corruption and safety concerns. Nobody misses any of these hostile elite toxic flying clowns one bit. The Park Township Board of Trustees quickly approved the final site plan for the former airport property to benefit the entire community, not a handful of elite select people. Note: General aviation or GA airport closures are not only about leaded avgas. Taxpayers are literally sick and tired of toxic noise, toxic people, toxic pollution, and wasted tax dollars only for a select few. With the goal of eliminating all negative aviation impacts, communities across the nation are closing unneeded, unwanted, non-sustainable, toxic, non-mission critical, non-essential, non-strategic hobby, sport, recreational, social, entertainment, general aviation venues as quickly as they can. Angry, frustrated residents are taking back control of their communities and neighborhoods, protecting their homes and schools, and protecting the health, safety, and welfare of their pregnant moms, babies, school children, and elderly. 344 million U.S. residents demand freedom from negative aviation impacts. Demand accountability, justice, and protection of health, safety, and welfare for all. And demand freedom from paying for negative community outcomes created by general aviation, including funds for remediation, cleaning, and disposal of tetraethyl lead environmental mess that general aviation continues to create by their own choice. 10 million Michigan residents are no different than all 344 million U.S. residents demanding relief from negative aviation impacts. And Canton Township residents are no different than 10 million Michigan residents demanding protection from general aviation negative aviation impacts right in their own backyards, neighborhoods, and schools. 1991 then Deputy Wayne County Executive stated, "As a matter of air traffic, it is not important to the county MDOT continued to acquiesce in 1991, demonstrating their will and choice to further their professional negligence, dereliction of duty, overreach, abuse of power, malfeasance, unethical, immoral, willful neglect, and just plain reprehensible, creepy behavior. 5 decades of MDOT bullying, deception, and lies. Absolutely nothing has changed with the Michigan Department of Transportation liars doing what they do well. Lie, lather, rinse, repeat, over and over again. 2001, MDOT coordinated with FAA for oversight and blessing, collusion, continuing their unholy alliance in Michigan today. MDOT and the FAA, the people who are supposed to look after everyone's safety and welfare, colluded and intentionally lied to Canton Township board members. Then 2005 Canton Township clerk stated, "We would prefer not to have the airport in Canton, period. If the state wants out of the airport business, there's probably a reason for it," she added. MDOT has been trying to unload the 1D2 money pit for decades. MDOT continued to acquiesce in 2005, demonstrating their will and choice to further their professional negligence, dereliction of duty, overreach, abuse of power, malfeasance, unethical, immoral, willful neglect, and just plain reprehensible, creepy behavior. MDOT owned Canton Plymouth Meta Tall 1D2 airstrip is, and always has been since the 70s, an unneeded, unwanted, non-sustainable, toxic, non-strategic, non-mission critical, non-essential, insignificant personal hobby, sport, recreational, and social entertainment venue. It's there literally only for a handful of elite people. Has no critical infrastructure, activities, or purpose. Provides no jobs, no tax revenues. And has nothing to do with science, technology, engineering, arts, or mathematics. Way back in 2014, MDOT knew about the blood samples of over 1 million Michigan children living within 1 kilometer of airports. The blood samples were time and spatially linked to 448 nearby general aviation airports in Michigan. Of course, those aircraft were using avgas, aka 100 leaded aviation fuel with tetraethyl lead. Yet MDOT continues to acquiesce in 2024, demonstrating their will and choice to further their professional negligence, dereliction of duty, overreach, abuse of power, malfeasance, unethical, immoral, willful neglect, and just plain reprehensible, creepy behavior to this day. Canton Township, Michigan residents demand the closure of the Michigan Department of Transportation-owned Canton Plymouth Meta Tall 1D2 airstrip, aka MDOT Frat House, to stop the 1D2 negative community outcomes from negative aviation impacts, to protect vulnerable populations including pregnant moms, babies, school children, and elderly. The MDOT Clown Patrol has absolutely no sense of urgency whatsoever and will drag this out as long as possible, if not forever, as spring break and summer vacations are almost here. All 10 million Michigan residents and taxpayers demand a stop to MDOT bullying, deception, and lies while wasting their hard-earned taxpayer dollars over and over again. It's long overdue and finally time to fix the damn MDOT. This was the first in a series of documentaries highlighting MDOT's ongoing campaign of professional negligence, dereliction of duty, overreach, abuse of power, malfeasance, unethical, immoral, willful neglect, and just plain reprehensible, abhorrent, creepy behavior, clearly on behalf of burrowed-in special interest and industry lobbyist cronies. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to check video description for key links that provide more information and details.